I'm Mary Lyons, the Wealth Woman.
I'm Eric Alexander with Acorn Grove.
Welcome to the Wealth and Income Podcast. Eric and I were having a conversation earlier this morning, and we just decided, you know what? We should record this. Let's have this conversation on recording.
Out loud.
Yeah, it really comes down to how do you know if your dreams are the right dreams? And are there things that you can do before you make large acquisitions? So, specifically, for those of you that are listening for the first time, part of the process that we try to incorporate is really focusing on money as a tool meant to help you build your dream life. So there's lots of conversation about what that dream life is. We have workshops that you can attend. But once you think you figure out your dream life, how do you know? How do you know if it's actually your dream life before you spend a bunch of money trying to get those things or do those things? So, Eric, will you just share a little bit of the background of how we ended up on this topic?
But shortly before I started this career, I worked in London for about 3 months. And my rental car there was a VW Golf, and left-hand, right-hand drive. It was a manual, and I loved driving standard manual cars. It's just, I want the feel of actually driving a car and not being sort of a modified passenger. And so I've been on this kick for the last probably 2 or 3 months, talking to my wife going, Amy, we need a Golf. She's like, we don't need a stop. We don't like, yes, we do. You can get this one and it's 300 horsepower and I'm researching it. And then I did this research and I did it all. Like I've gotten to the end of the rainbow and I thought, this is ridiculous. I can't keep doing all this research. To what end?
Yeah.
And so I thought one of two things are going to happen. Either I'm going to go just break down and buy this car and then find out later on that this was a terrible idea. I like driving a manual, but I live in flippin' Dallas in the middle of traffic central. Do I really want to go do this? Yeah, I don't need that practice over and over again 4,000 times.
I do remember when we were first working together, you complaining about your morning commute, trying to like drink a cup of coffee in stop and go traffic. I feel like that is a conversation that you and I had multiple times. So when you brought this up, I have to be honest, I was a little surprised.
Yeah. Oh, no, I remember those days. And I remember it was before Apple CarPlay and all the rest. So I'm on the phone trying to eat because I'm running late from one appointment to the next, driving, drinking, eating, shifting, talking on the phone, going, I'm almost there. And my wife is continually like, how did you not end up dead? Like,
I'm going to tell you, nostalgia is a weird thing. It's a weird thing because that's something that clearly you miss based on our conversation. And yet I don't know how you remember this fondly.
Well, this is how I understand pregnancy and giving birth. Why would you do that more than once? It seems terrible. I was there. You didn't look like you were having a good time.
Right.
So what I decided to do, and my wife still thinks I'm nuts for this, is instead of going to buy this car and then figuring out, jumping in the deep end, whether this is a good idea or not, there's a company called Turo where you can basically rent other people's cars. So I found a car in Dallas, and this weekend I'm going to go drive around somebody else's VW Golf and figure out, is this really something I would want to do on a day-to-day basis? Or do I just need to scratch the itch and be done? I
think while you rent this car, you need to figure out how to put yourself in stop and go traffic while drinking a coffee. And just put yourself back in the actual situation that you seem to be remembering right now and see if I had to do this every day and it wasn't a novelty, would I miss the convenience of my car?
I hit a button and I go.
And then I'm going. Right. But I think this is actually genius, Eric, because I can't tell you like how many times I've had conversations with clients that have made their dreams list and then they start executing on it, right? Because we believe in recognizing one dream every single month. So you don't end up with some bucket list of things you're going to do in the far off future, but you start making changes to your life immediately. And people will do stuff and then come back and tell us, I thought I was going to feel very differently when I did that. And that's been my experience. When you first start living the dream life way and you start executing on all of this, everything is a novelty. So it's all new and exciting. Right. And then you start to realize there's certain things that you're like, yeah, I thought that would be it, but it's not. Your dreams list actually starts shifting. And so the more we can do to figure out, and I think God speaks to us through action. I think when we're sitting passively doing nothing, we don't figure anything out. We're just sitting there passively. When we start acting, we learn through our actions, yes, that I like this or no, that I don't. Or yes, this is fulfilling or no, it is not. And it's only through the doing of those things that we can figure it out. Sometimes we have enough history that we can anticipate it. But I mean, how many, I can think of multiple clients that had a lake house on their list who saved up, went out, purchased a lake house, had it for 2 to 3 years. And they were like, this is terrible. I feel obligated to go to the lake house when what I really want to do is go on a cruise. And I'm thinking of a very specific person when I say that, but they're, the idea that like, okay, I don't get to go do something else. I have to go mow the yard at the lake house, or, I look at the amount of money that's going to the mortgage and the yard maintenance because I don't want to go out there and do it. And I think, wow, I could actually take a vacation every single month for the price of that.
A really nice one.
Right. Is this actually the thing that I wanted? And I think sometimes you don't know until you do it. But I think what you're talking about, taking your dreams for a test drive, like that's an interesting concept to me.
Yeah, well, and the joke I had, the justification to my wife was like, look, I can spend, I think the rental cost for the weekend will be like $300. Like that is a really good investment on $300 at the end of the weekend. I'm like, that was amazing. I want to do that every single day, or I'm done. Right. And then I save myself 40 or 50 grand, whatever the number is for the car, and I'm done.
Well, Mike doesn't know I'm about to say this, but if what you really want is just to drive a stick shift, I've got a Jeep LJ in my driveway right now.
The shifting experience in a Jeep versus a 300 horsepower VW Golf might be slightly different, but
a little different. Yeah, Mike's probably gonna listen. I'm just saying, first of all, I absolutely love that Mike listens to our podcast, right? But he's going to listen.
Recorded line,
yeah. And he's going to be like, oh, yeah, you don't need to sell my Jeep. I love my Jeep.
Well, a friend of mine last night says, well, I've got an old VW Bug you can drive around. I'm like, from the 70s? No, you've missed the point.
Yeah, that's so funny. Yeah, I do think this is an interesting concept, though, the test driving your dreams, because if we can figure it out before we make a large investment in something, I think that is better. And I'll give you an example, actually, of this. So I just bought a new car in December, and it was time. I had driven the same car for 11 plus years. I had a diesel Porsche Cayenne, and I would have loved to get the same car, just an updated version, but they don't make it anymore. And so I went and test drove a hybrid Cayenne, and I got to tell you, I did not love it. I mean, it was super powerful, and I don't think I took that car above 50, 55, but when I floored it, oh my gosh, something about where the center of gravity was, and I'm prone to car sickness anyways, but it was like I had to get out and put my head between my legs and drink something bubbly. And I thought, okay, if that's happening to me on a test drive, then I can't imagine what my kids are going to be yelling at me from the back seat, right? Because they're prone to motion too. So I opted not to get that. But while I was at the dealership, I was like, one of the things that is on my list is a Porsche 911. And so I know.
I remember these conversations.
And so I was like, you know what? I'm going to test drive one of the used 911s that they have on the lot just to get this out of my system, because I was like, oh, this is perfect. I can knock this off my dreams list, because I just drove the Cayenne and felt like I was going to puke. So if I get in the 911 and feel like I'm going to puke, I can just cross that off. Yep. It had the opposite effect. I guess because the center of gravity is so much lower in that car.
Yeah, you're sitting on the ground.
Moly, I loved every minute of it. I was like, okay, I'm setting new goals. I am locked in to what needs to happen for me to be able to financially justify buying a 911 at this point. And I'm a little annoyed because I was trying to knock it off the list, and then I loved it.
Yeah, that's my fear this weekend, is like, that's amazing. I want this all the time,
Well, but then right? I mean,
that's the point.
If you're going to spend money on something, it should be something that either gives you purpose or gives you joy. Those are two times that shows up, and it has to fit within like the practical budget that you have as well, right? I mean, you got to be in a place where you can deploy the capital and not feel too much loss for having done it, because the rest of your plan is on track.
Yeah, because the Maserati or the Aston Martin that I really want is not on the list right now.
Yet. Say yet.
Yet.
Yeah. or it can be on the list. It's just that you're not going to acquire it yet, right? I mean,
Right.
I think this is where that sort of approach of how much do I really want this? And I think there's two ways to do this. There's probably some questions you can ask yourself that will help you hone in on it. I know for me, like with the 9/11, there definitely was a piece of that that is showy. But one of the things that I've really tried to focus on with the dreams in particular is making sure they're my dreams and not someone else's. Because I think
That
when you
scorecard.
yeah, and that that's such a weird thing to say because when I say that out loud, there's a part of me that feels gross. Like, am I doing this for status or am I doing this to show off? And I think those are real questions for somebody with my personality because I like to be the center of attention. And so I have to question my own motives for that. But I also think having studied the science of mimetic desire, the fact that desire frequently is not internal but externally driven. We see someone else has a thing, we want it too, right? We see someone else does something, we want to do that thing. Or we see that this is what successful people do, so I want to do it too. I think asking yourself, what part of this is really about me is interesting. And the fact of the matter is, I'm one of those people that really likes a nice car, like a performance vehicle, but I also don't need a new one every 2 to 3 years. I'm going to drive it until it becomes impractical to keep driving it.
Right.
So there's that element to it, but I kind of asked myself about the 9/11. It was how much of this is for show, and the fact of the matter is, it's none of it. It's that when I sat in that car, like I felt in control. The way that thing zips around, all of that. And I think that's part of what you're talking about too, when you're looking at the manual versus an automatic vehicle. It's like it's feeling the machine. And I think that as a motivator is so pure. There's something, I don't know, just I feel like a lot of people have that.
Yeah, well, that's why we want a lake house or a mountain cabin or whatever. I can go there when I choose to, right? I mean, I think there's a feeling of control on that side of it. And I think some people are doing that because they feel like that's what you're supposed to do.
Right.
I have $5 extra to rub together today. I should go buy a lake house.
Right.
Where if you know why you're going and why you're not going to go, I think that's a key part of it. And there's Dan Sullivan, the guy who co-wrote 10x is easier than 2x, had a great line. He said, "You can only buy two things in life: stuff or energy." And so pay attention to what you're buying and where your money goes, because if you're just buying stuff, then it's ultimately unfulfilling. If you're buying energy, pay attention to that. And
That's a great framework.
yeah, well, because I think it goes back to the lake house. Am I buying a thing because I just feel like I need a lake house because that's what rich people buy? Or I need a place to go where I am just overloaded and that place is my center of gravity and it helps me unwind and be better for my kids, my job, my whatever. Okay, well, then that makes sense. If you want to go buy a car because when somebody sees me with a car, they'll think I have a lot of money and then want to give me more, that's a terrible reason to buy a car.
Right.
But if you're buying a car because it's like, this is my wherever, this is the place where I go to unwind because I can go 90 miles an hour and in a residential area, then, whatever, knock yourself out.
I think that's called reckless driving.
Maybe.
Yeah, I think that's interesting. So I'm going to go back to the lake house because that's something I did early on when I started doing the dreams list. And it is interesting having the conversations with Mike about it too, because it is completely impractical. It is completely impractical for our lives right now because our kids have so many activities that it is next to impossible to get out there on any kind of regular basis. So thinking about 2025, we were out there for New Year's. And then we were out there for the second half of spring break because we traveled during the first half. We were out there for Easter weekend. And I look at that and I'm like, those are the only times we have been able to take advantage of the lake house so far this year. And I'm hoping summer will be different, but who knows? Because the kids have camp and we have other travel and there's stuff going on. And I look at the expense of the lake house versus the amount of time we spend there. And so on the practical side of things, Mike and I frequently are like, if we didn't have the expense of this lake house, we could either save so much more money or we could take more extravagant vacations or we could make other choices with the things that we're doing. And we keep coming back to, even if we aren't using it all the time, the moment we walk through those doors at the lake house, it's like instant relaxation. And I don't know if it's proximity to the water, if it's the trees that are surrounding it, if it's just that this is our place and there isn't a to-do list. We don't have to go do the groceries and all of that, because there's certainly maintenance and other things that we end up doing when we're out there. But the feeling, it's like having a personal retreat where everything just unwinds. Like the frenetic pace of Dallas sort of disappears while we're there. And we tend to be very present and connected with our children while we're there, and the memories are good. And I don't think I could give that up, even if the expense itself is kind of silly, right? Like when you
Right.
look at you could do other things that would be more financially fruitful with those dollars.
Right. Well, but I think that also informs other things that you're doing. Is that if you're because I think if you understand that that's where your energy is better, it's not stuff, it's energy. Then if you're thinking about something else, do I need a Porsche? Maybe not, because I've got another place that I can go.
Big house.
Correct. And so I think I think it was Jim Carrey that had the quote, like, one of these days, I hope that everyone gets everything they've ever dreamed of so they can figure out that it's not the thing that makes them happy.
Yeah, well, that's brilliant.
And like doing the things that are hard, because you talked about purpose too, right? Doing the things that are hard, like going to the gym or working out in general. I despise it. I hate it. I never want to go do it. But the moment I'm done with it, I'm always like, that was so good. I'm so glad I did that. There's never a time where I get done with that and I'm like angry that I worked out. Now my body is angry with me. I'm still facing angry body right now from Saturday. But it's like church for me too. Sunday morning, I don't want to go to church. I want to sleep in and I want to have a cup of coffee and not get up and go do it. But there's never a moment where I get home going, that was a waste of time. Like, why didn't I go do that?
Right.
And so I think part of that is not just the stuff and energy, but also paying attention to even something that seems hard. When you get done with it, do you look back and go, that was dumb? Was such a waste of time? Or do you go, I would go totally do that again?
Well, I think recognizing that it might be different for you than it is for other people as well.
Awesome. Like, and I think it's trying to figure out what that is for you, right? What's the thing that's hard at the beginning, but you never regret doing it?
Well, I think that goes to the balance, right? You and I talk about this a lot. It can't be all hedonism all the time.
Correct.
There has to be like that telic aspect of this activity has purpose, and then balance with the atelic activity of I'm doing this strictly for enjoyment, and figuring out, and I think those things shift and change. You know what's interesting? So thinking to even just atelic activities that I think of. So one of the things that I put on my dreams list for this year was completing one work of art every month, and I have not done that so far. And it's the same sort of, I find that a lot of times, and I wonder if this is a universal thing just because of what you said, but I find that a lot of times going into an activity that I know is going to be good for me, like resent the act of doing it, even though I know it's good for me. That's true with working out. That's also true for me with church. It's also true for me sometimes with doing art. Right. Yeah. There are moments where I'm like, oh, I'm just going to do it because I want to. And then there are moments where I'm like, oh, I got to do this because I said I was going to do this. And I'm always happy that I did it. The gearing up and the doing of it, I have a weird resistance to. And it makes me think of, what was that book? Not The Obstacle is the Way. That's not the one I'm thinking of. I'm thinking of another book that was specifically for writers.
The War of Art.
The War of Art. The things that we frequently,
War of Art.
Yeah, The War of Art. The things that we are frequently like most resistant to are the things that we most need to do.
Well, and Sullivan had another kind of quote on that, and he talked about that as a way to pay attention to what you procrastinate on. And if you're paying attention to what you're procrastinating on, it's either the thing that you shouldn't be doing, you should offload to somebody else, like you need to hire that out. Or if you hate it, right? Or if you procrastinate on something and then you do it and then you look back and go, that was amazing. The reason that you procrastinated on it was probably because you were scared of it. Like you knew it was going to push you and you didn't want to be pushed. And so you dread, like, I don't want to go to the gym. I don't want to work out because I know it's going to make me tired and sore and sweaty and whatever. But then I get done with the end of it. I'm like, oh, I'm so glad I did that. And so I think part of it is we look at the dreams list as the bucket list.
Right.
Because that's how we've been conditioned.
Right.
And so we think of it as this one big bet that we're making. We're going to buy the lake house and this is going to be it, baby. And this is what we're going to go do. And this is going to fulfill all our dreams. But we never did the small bets on the way up to that to figure out, trying it out. Is that really what we wanted to do? Is that really the life we want?
So let's use that as the example, like the lake house example, for someone who's listening to this going, oh, that's exactly my predicament right now.
Right.
I think that one of the things that you can do is go ahead and alter your budget. And I think a full 12 months of this is totally fine because it's saving up for your down payment anyways, right? So if you alter your budget by the cost of the lake house, so whatever the mortgages plus the taxes plus the insurance plus setting money aside for upkeep, maintenance, all of that, electricity, trash, all the things, kind of budgeting. What do we think that will really be? And then in a very disciplined manner on the first of every month, as if you were paying that mortgage, putting that money into a savings vehicle and doing that for a year, and that to the detriment of everything else. And then understanding that what's going to happen mentally is that when you do have free time, because all of that money is going to it, that you're going to the lake, right? I mean, I will say I think we bought our lake house 22 and it's
Yeah.
May 25 right now. And it is only just this summer that we are taking a trip to Europe because for the past
Yeah.
almost 3 years, everything that we have done has been if we have free time, we're going to the lake. And so I
Right.
think you have to pay attention to, is that actually what I want? Because like the person that I mentioned earlier that bought a lake house and then found themselves there all the time, like that person loved going on cruises and seeing new places they hadn't been before. And the fact that like all their meals are taking care of them, which doesn't happen at a lake house. Yeah. And so they had the lake house for a couple of years. And luckily, because of how and when they bought it, they made a tidy profit when they ended up selling it. But I think that realization of, oh, we're not really lake people. I don't want to go to the same place all the time. And being honest with yourself about those things is key. Now, I found I really am a lake person because I think so much of how I am in Dallas is, if I'm leaving my house, I'm dressed to the nines. I'm not going to the grocery store without a full face of makeup on, right? It's just part of what Dallas is, I think. And going to the lake, like I get to be Lake Mary. I don't fix my hair. I don't
Right.
put makeup on. I'm wearing cutoff shorts. I'm lucky if I put shoes on, kind of a thing. And like, it's just such a position from how I am in my day-to-day life. And I think having that, it's almost like escapism. Like I don't have to do anything I don't want to do at the lake. And then I show up differently with my kids too. I'm not thinking about the next thing that's on our to-do item. I am wholly present. I mean, the sheer volume of like board games and card games that exists at our lake house, like if you saw that, you'd be like, how are you ever going to get to all of these? But it's a different way to show up. And it's a space too. Like in my life, I like to be the hostess. I don't like to go to other people's houses for parties. That stresses me out. I like people to come into my space. And so
Interesting.
it gives me that space where I'm like, you guys come out and like, let me host you in my space. And I don't find it stressful there. But if I had house guests in my actual house for like a whole weekend, I'd be stressed out the whole time. It's very bizarre, but I love those things. And I think that ability to think through all of this is so key. And I think I'm just curious to know what your outcome is going to be after you rent this car for the weekend. Like, is one weekend enough time, or do you need to rent it for like 2 solid weeks and make the daily commute and do all the other like? Are you going to be taking your kids to and from practices?
Right, right, right. Yeah, and so because I'm a nerd, I've been trying to think through, okay, I need to build a schedule for this weekend. And this is Memorial Day weekend, so my wife's going to love this. I need to build a schedule for my weekend of like, okay, I got to go to these places. How do I set up enough excursions that test out this car in a bunch of different scenarios so that I can see, okay, yeah, that was awesome. Okay, don't drive in back-to-back traffic, right? And the good thing is our office is close enough and the road that we drive on to get to the office is not terrible. So I'm like, okay, I don't have to deal with 635, the big loop in Dallas. I don't have to deal with 635 at 8 a.m. anymore just because of the way life has changed. And so some of that I don't worry about. But if we go to an FC Dallas game, we're not taking that car. We're taking an automatic because I don't want to go back bumper to bumper traffic with a stupid manual. Like I will get tired at the end of the day. It may be my workout for the day, just like back and forth. But yeah, but I think sometimes part of it is just testing it out and not being too committed to no, this is the way we're going, like holding loose to your dream on that side. And I think that's the reason that, and you just made me convinced of this. I think that's the reason why the dreams list is important when you're younger, is that you get to try out the dreams when there's no catastrophic implications for it if it doesn't work out. Just think about the people that like they sold their house, they moved to the lake, and they're lake people now. And then 3 years into it, they're like, this sucks.
Yeah.
Like, but nobody wants to give up on their dreams because that's what we told everybody we're lake people, and now we hate it.
Yeah, that's interesting because while I do think being lake people is impractical for Mike and I right now because of the kids' schedules with sports and plays and orchestra and all of those things, I do think when the kids are grown and flown, I can see Micah and I settling very much into that particular lifestyle, but I don't think we could do it 100% of the time. Right. But I think we could spend a lot more time at the lake than we do now and be very, very happy about it. So when you were talking, there were two things that popped into my mind and kind of about the figuring it out. We did an episode quite some time ago about talking with your spouse about what your dreams are, especially when dreams don't align. And I think this is actually really practical, even if you're just asking yourself this question right now. And it is, which part of my dream is negotiable and which part of my dream is non-negotiable? Or is the whole dream negotiable, which I think in and of itself tells you something, right? I mean, like when I think about the Porsche 911, there's a piece of me that really loves that, but it just feels so impractical to me at the same time that even as I've had these conversations with people, they're like, Mary, you're so practical, you're never going to buy that car. And I'm like, you know what? That's probably accurate. Like the lake house is the most impractical thing I have ever done, ever, with my money. And like one impractical thing might be enough for me. Like I might just be done, right?
Yeah.
But I think the thing when I look at even that, what was negotiable for me on the lake was location, as long as it had certain traits like privacy and nature and trees. And what was not negotiable, though, was having a place that we could establish memories and traditions with our kids. I was adamant that I wanted to be able to bring friends with us when we wanted to bring friends with us. And I think being able to quantify those to myself and to Mike is what made the lake possible for us as a family. But I think going through that exercise also helped me rule a bunch of other, even less practical things out of the picture, like a house and house that we would have to drive 12 hours to just
which you would never go to.
Right. I mean, it would happen so rarely that I think we would be in the situation where we're like, why do we do this? But I think the other thing to remember, unless you have more to add, I'm going to close with this.
Yeah, please.
Wherever you go, there you are.
Yes. Yes.
I think sometimes we have this idea in our head that we are going to acquire certain things or do certain things, and then we are going to feel very differently. And I think that's not really what happens. And so I think this sort of deliberate approach to the dreams matters, because certainly for me, thinking about the course of my adult life, you get the house, the cars, the career accolades, all the things, and then you think you're going to feel a certain way, and then you realize that you don't, and you've worked for years towards this thing. And it's another reason not to delay the dreams, because it's better if you know sooner rather than later. But I think actually understanding I'm going to be the same person no matter what happens. I've been able to identify that some of the things that I originally put on my dreams list were purely escapism, right? Like, I'm going to do this thing. Going to be this sort of different life. And I think of a person that we've worked with that was one of the hardest workers that I've ever met. And she kept being like, I want to marry somebody who's going to take care of me, and then I'm not going to work anymore. And like that maybe lasted for a year, and now she's working again. And it's just like, at some point you have to acknowledge that some of the things that may end up on your dreams list are escapism because you're stressed or you're feeling a certain way. And I think being very honest with yourself about who you are and the fact that you will still be the same person in that particular outfit or location or vehicle is really a key metric to knowing, like, is this really going to do it for me?
Well, and I think the other to bookend that a little bit is also with your work. Like, I can do a lot of stuff that's really outside of who I am functionally and like as a personality, as a human, but I can't do it for very long. And so if you're like adapting your personality to go fit with something just because you think it's going to give you more money, but it's making you miserable at some point, and it'll happen faster than you think, you will burn that job to the ground because you just can't keep it going. Yeah. And so looking for things where you can make a difference and you can pour who you are into it, and the job you're doing like lets your who you are come out, and so that you can be the best of who you are. Even if it doesn't have as much money at the beginning, you'll get more money in the back end when you're fully present.
So on that, we're going to close.
Yeah,
what I
thank you.
Is if you take your dreams for a test drive, whether the outcome is a heck yes or an absolutely not, we would love to hear from you. If you were looking for me, I would love a DM that lets me know how your test drive went. You can find me anywhere you use social media at The Wealth Woman. Eric, where can they find you?
Same thing, anywhere you use social media at Acorn Grove. Thank you. Mary Lyons and Eric Alexander are registered representatives and investment advisor representatives of and securities offered through One America Securities Incorporated, a registered investment advisor, member FINRA, SIPC. Wealth Woman, Benchmark Income Group, and the Big Wealth Podcast is not an affiliate of One America Securities or the companies of One America, and is not a broker-dealer or registered investment advisors. The use of asset allocation or diversification does not assure a profit or guarantee against a loss. Investing involves risk, which includes potential loss of principal. Provided content is for overview and informational purposes only and is not intended and should not be relied upon as individualized tax, legal, fiduciary, or investment advice. All numeric examples and any individual shown are hypothetical and were used for explanatory purposes only. Actual results may vary.